Hi, Pat. Thanks for doing this.
Hi,
Um,
Kevin. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I was just thinking about your kind of new role here, and it's got to be a little bit tricky. On one hand, you got to give quality players to the minor league team. You have to get character players, the right guys to mesh with your younger players to sort of, mentor them. And you also kind of get a guy to maybe get a few who could help you if you get injuries. Like, is it tricky? Is it kind of hard? Sometimes they're all the same player, but not always.
Well, I think it's a balancing act. I know, we one of the primary focuses is really we've got a lot of young players coming in the organization now, and we really want to support them with some really good veterans. So, and veterans that can provide offense. So, our young guys aren't strapped with having to provide all the offense for being young players. So it kind of gives them a big support system, from an offensive standpoint. And the same thing can be said for our defensive. We have quality veteran players, defensemen that are really going to mentor our younger defensemen. And I think, those players, some of the veterans, that we can use them as call-ups and at the same time, they're, being used to help mentor our young players as well.
If I can follow up, obviously this came somewhat of a surprise. I don't know that people thought that Ryan Martin was going to leave, and already Steve leans on you for a lot of things. Do you just look this as another challenge for you, or how do you view this extra duty?
I'm excited about the opportunity. In a sense, it's a very important job for our organization right now, and I know it's going to be a huge challenge. I think primarily when you really want to get your organization going in the right way, you really have to develop players. So I'm taking this as a very important role in helping the Detroit Red Wings, try to, get to back to where we need to be in the playoffs and winning the Stanley Cup.
Thanks, Ben.
Yep.
Next up, Art Regner, DetroitRedWings.com.
Hey, Pat, how are you? It seems like it's been 1,000 years since I talked to you last.
Well, I see you every day almost on the clock up there at LCA. So
yeah, well,
I see you.
Yeah, those are entertaining moments to say the least, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Especially when Darren's on. With that said, I kind of want to follow up about what Kevin said, because obviously Grand Rapids is going into a different phase because of the influx of young talent the Red Wings have acquired through the draft over the last couple of years. How difficult is this mix going to be? I mean, if it isn't happening, let's say, where maybe the young guys are not developing through the mentorship of some of the veterans, do you go out and change it, or do you just try to make it work, if that makes sense?
Well, I think it's kind of a little early to, ask that question, Art. Like I think I'm just going to kind of watch and see how it's going, and if we need to tweak something, we need to tweak something. I mean, there'll be, Steve and I and the coaching staff down in Grand Rapids will have discussions and just kind of see if we need to work in that direction. But I'm actually pretty excited about the team. Ryan, did a pretty good job did a really good job with getting our veterans signed, and I'm pretty excited about the team that's down there. We should be a very good team.
The delicate balance between developing talent and making sure that the franchise wins. Obviously, I've been to many, many Griffin games over the years, and great environment, a great place to play and maybe hone in on your skills. But is it difficult? Is it difficult where maybe you want to see more development, which could impact the winning, or am I off base on that?
Well, I think it's, I hate to keep saying this, but it's a fine balance. I mean, we want to win. Believe me, you want your younger players and exposed to winning, learning what it takes to win. At the same time, they have to earn their ice time. We're gonna give them every opportunity to perform, and and if they take it, we'll give them we'll give them more rope to to go, and if they don't, we'll reel it back in a little bit to maybe have simplify their game and get them going in a direction that can help them become better players.
All right, and one final question. I know that Ryan worked as a consultant with the Toledo Walleye, and that if there were players that perhaps because Detroit had their contract limit, Grand Rapids might have too, that he might have swung some people down Toledo's way to see if they could develop enough to at least go to Grand Rapids. I'm just curious, will you have any kind of interaction with the Walleye as well? Or are you going to be strictly everything that you do for the Wings and now Grand Rapids?
No, we're going to continue. I mean, we just signed a new affiliation with Toledo. So, Dan Watson's the head coach. I spoke with him yesterday. So we're probably going to see if we can sign one more player for, that would be a two-way contract for AHL and ECHL. So no, we're going to continue that working relationship. It's beneficial to both of us.
Thank you, Pat. Appreciate your
Yeah.
time. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
Next is Ansar Khan from MLive.
Yeah, hi, Pat. Just how much of a challenge is it? Just a balancing act between your duties now in Grand Rapids and what you were doing with the Red Wings?
Well, there's going to be probably, I'm going to lose a little bit of what I was doing from the scouting side of things. We're going to start to lean more heavily on our pro scouts. And in some of my duties, as far as watching, the college and the amateur stuff will probably be dialed back just a little bit, but not a lot. I mean, what's nice about, with Grand Rapids and that they have, schedules mostly on the weekends, and, there's a lot of games during the week. So I'll still be able to go and do a lot of what I've been doing, the last couple of years here, for Steve. And if some of it's going to probably change a little bit, but not a lot. I'll still be, getting all the, the GR games and then doing some other stuff as well.
I also wanted to ask you about a couple of guys coming in, Raymond and Berggren, whether they start the season in Detroit or Grand Rapids, just the influx of skill level that they're going to bring to the organization. How much are you looking forward to that? Well,
it's exciting. I mean, it's you always want to see your young players, get to the NHL. I mean, we're pretty excited, with their skill level, their hockey sense, their ability to be able to, provide offense, which is going to be important moving forward for us. If we, we want to start taking some good steps in the right direction. So, but having said that, we're not going to rush them, into the NHL. When they're ready, they're ready. The NHL is kind of a tough league to develop in. So we're going to give them every opportunity to make the hockey team. And if they're not quite ready, then, they'll go to play in Grand Rapids and develop there.
Thanks, Pat.
Yep.
Stuff Jack Doles, Wood TV 8.
Hey, Pat, Ben Simon and that coaching staff, how committed are you going forward to them?
Oh, very committed. They've done an excellent job, at least a couple of years that I've been here. So we've been very impressed with the job that they've done, and we're just going to continue working. And they understand the role that we're looking from them, and so they're all on board. So it's very good going forward.
How does this job mesh with all the hats you're already wearing? Taking on these responsibilities, is this something you're eager to do? And how does it fit in with what you're already doing?
Well, it's going to be a little different. You start to, you have to start dealing with, players now and personnel decisions. In more of a day-to-day sort of thing versus on a yearly thing when I work with Steve as far as working on rosters and try to get players for next year. So this will be more of a day-to-day thing, talking to players and making sure that that they get everything they need from us and we're getting everything we need from them. So it's I think that's kind of really the only thing, other than the day-to-day thing. Pretty much everything's going to be the same. I really don't see much changing other than, I'll have to be at Grand Rapids probably a lot more than when I was last year.
One last thing, Steve's leaned on you a lot over the years. What is it that makes it a good partnership between you and Steve?
Well, I think when I look at it, him and I think very similar on players. And I think that's kind of, so when I look at a player, he looks at a player, we think very similar. So I think that's kind of, and, there's times, that, you have to give the truth, the blatant truth about things. And I can kind of do that at times. I don't have any problem doing that. And so I think he appreciates the honesty.
Mark Newman, Graffiti Magazine.
Congrats on your expanded role. And
Thanks.
I want to follow up on Jack's question a little bit. Players on the ice have to develop a chemistry. Was there a development process for you and Steve in terms of communication and finding yourselves on the same page, or did that happen from day one?
I kind of think it really happened from day one. I would think, we were line mates, on the ice for about a year and a half, and I got to play with him quite a bit. So I think there's a lot of things we thought the game the same way. So I think that whenever we've had discussions, we just I can't really explain it. We just saw things the same, so there might be the odd time where we don't see it the same way, but it's just something that we always work ourselves through, and we discuss further, and at some point we come to a consensus, and we move forward. So I can't explain it any other, better than that, and we just kind of see things very similar.
Okay. And going a little deeper, going back to the beginning when you became a pro scout, how important were those years in terms of learning how to analyze a player and observe talent? Were those important years for your development?
Oh, it was great. Yeah. When Kenny Holland, when I sat down with him to do an interview a long time ago, and it is a long time ago now, it was, I had just finished playing. I hadn't been out of the game. So one of the unique advantages for me is when I went into scouting, I knew a bunch of players, so I didn't have to really start from scratch. Some of the times when we hire some scouts here, it's like drinking, water through a fire hose, and that they have to really get to know these players, and they haven't been familiar with them for a bit. So luckily for me, I was able to jump in and I knew a bunch of the players, and what ends up happening, you just keep expanding your book. And as you get, into the minor leagues, you start to see more and more players, and it becomes a natural thing for the scouting. And now, you learn lessons along the way when, I've made mistakes on some guys, and some guys turn out a lot better than I thought, and some guys didn't turn out as good as I thought. So there's certain things, and you try and draw on those experiences from some of the mistakes you've made, and reanalyze that stuff, and look at where you went wrong, and look at some of the things you did right. So it takes time. It's not an easy thing. So as you've seen over the years, and any especially with the amateur players, it can be very hard thing to predict, and some guys aren't going to hit the heights that you think they are, and some guys are going to blow it right out of the water who you never thought could do that. So that's why I keep telling all our scouts, hey, you got to keep watching every day. You got to keep watching, because these players change, and you want to make sure that you can try and predict when they're going to change at the right time, so that you can hit it at the right time for when they do change.
Okay. I know every player's journey to the NHL is different. Can you talk about if there's a general philosophy in terms of a player's placement when you decide to bring a guy over versus allowing them to continue to play in their home country? I mean, I know every player is different, but is there a thinking, let's keep them one place or the other?
No, well, there is a little bit of strategy in it that, we work, Sean Horkoff and Dan Cleary kind of oversee our development with all our players. So they're in touch with these kids. They're watching, video of their games. And so we really get progress reports from these players. And then at a certain time, it's, dependent on their contracts, eligibility or status. We make those decisions of when to bring them over. And at sometimes they have to be mature enough to want to come over too. So we tend to kind of let them, make sure that they're ready to come over, especially for Europeans and, that, I mean, it'd be hard for me if I was 18, 19-year-olds just to go and have to live in Sweden or, Finland or Czech or Republic or even Russia for that matter. So it's a big step for these guys. And so we're aware of it, and we want to make sure that they're ready both on the ice and off the ice.
And are there certain advantages to having a number of players, number of prospects in the same country, same league, and in some cases, even the same team? I mean, are there certain advantages that you can take advantage in terms of pooling resources, all eyes on a certain? Go ahead.
Well, some of the advantages is our scouts can kind of make one-stop shopping, so they can kind of go in there and watch the kids play in one game. That's kind of nice. So is there an advantage to it? I think for some of our guys, we have a few guys playing for Frölunda. It's just one of those things, how it's worked out. Is there in the same country? When it comes to maybe doing some development things, we're able to get them into a spot easier, to have a development camp and to kind of really, work on some of the things that they need to work on for the summer.
Okay. And one last thing, I saw this quote attributed to you. I don't know if it's true. Tell me if you agree with it. Nobody ever says you left a player in the minors too long. It's always you brought them up too soon. The thinking again that you let a player mature, develop in the minor leagues. Don't rush a guy. Do you agree with that philosophy? Don't rush a player.
Yes, it's like I've seen a lot. Like it's some players can't handle it. Like some players will fight their way through it, but I think you do more damage when you bring a kid up too soon before they're ready. Like, I think the one thing that we've experienced with Tampa and before even we went to Tampa in Detroit with Kenny Holland's philosophy, it's better to have them, be overripe than not ripe. And so, eventually what we like to see is we like to see them play themselves out of the AHL, when they're starting to dominate. That's when they're ready, and then you bring them up, and there'll be some growing pains at the NHL level, but most of the time they've already gone through that adversity in the minors, so that they'll know how to overcome that adversity in the NHL if they run into it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Art Regner.
Yeah. Hi, Pat. I knew there was one more thing I wanted to ask you, and I promise it's only going to be one. But analytics has actually evolved since you began your position after your playing days. How much do you rely on that? And are there specific analytics that you look at that really can give you maybe a determination or how much of an impact this player could have at the NHL level?
Yeah, I mean, we're growing our analytics department here with the Wings. So yeah, I mean, we use it quite extensively. But I mean, there's so many directions you can go into. I think I use it as a backup for what my eyes are seeing. So I like to use my eyes. And then if my eyes are fooling me, I want to maybe I get into the analytics because maybe there's something I'm missing, so maybe the analytics is saying one thing to me and maybe my eyes are saying another. So that's kind of why we use them, so I can make sure that I'm not making a mistake on one side of the fence or the other.
Well, it's good to hear that the eye test still counts for something these days. So thanks a lot, Pat. Appreciate it.
Yeah.